Okay, so let's do a continuation of the last lesson, exploring how it's attention that's up-preferencing information in each moment. But first, let's do some basic housekeeping. It's not lost on me that the production quality is fairly poor. This will be something that I work on in 2025 to improve, as I do understand that poor audio quality can cause attention to chase thoughts. Also, I want to reiterate that attention is not only useful for improving mindfulness, but also in recognizing non-dual awareness. It's become more and more clear to me that as the processing of information occurs and the unscrambling of the coherent landscape is presented in the wetware of the brain, it's more accurate to state that attention is the preferencing of that information. And non-duality is recognizing experience as the playing board of the conscious landscape, as attention moving through it, without the added thought of a subject. So let's sit on the couch, put in our earbuds, put down our phone, and let's look out the window at something where our attention naturally lands. Here's a small peek in how my mind works, which might be something atypical. I like to investigate information from different directions. So, for the next few minutes, we're going to dive back into the phenomenon of attention and see if there's anything more we can learn about the conscious experience. Similar to the last exercise, let's begin with the visual field focused on an object centrally located. Hopefully, since the last exercise, you've been able to notice that attention is constantly moving through the conscious landscape. Now, in the last exercise, I attempted to distinguish the difference between the focused area of the visual field and attention. They can occur in the same place, but very often, attention is elsewhere in the conscious landscape. In this exercise, we're going to have the same goal of examining attention to better understand attention. But we're going to try and mix it up a little. Here goes. As the visual field has hopefully remained focused on the object, let's find a new object for the visual field to focus on. As that occurs, identify a specific characteristic about that object. Did you notice a kind of laser focus where, for at least a moment, no distraction was present? If so, that was attention landing on the object in the center of the visual field. Here's what we're going to do now. We're going to attempt to keep attention out of the focused area of the visual field. Now, you might say that's an impossible task, but my response is that, although difficult, just the act of inspection is valuable. Here goes. Far and away, the easiest way to do this, in my experience, is to be lost in thought. That will definitely win the prize for the longest time keeping attention out of the focused area of the visual field. You might be able to make it minutes before that laser focus returns. I'm going to start by making some recommendations that you can follow. But if there are things in experience that come up, by all means, observe as attention moves around. Notice how long until attention is laser focused in the visual field. It really is subtle at first, but while doing this exercise, notice when the object returns to a laser focus. And also notice when it's just another object in experience. Also, recognize how attention bounces between objects too. You'll know as that object will be what's preferenced in the moment. I'll get us started. as the object is noticed in the focused area of the visual field. Let's begin by noticing the sensation of the right foot. Now, make fists with your right foot's toes. Now, make fists with both feet. And now, go back and forth between feet. Notice attention up preferencing these objects, kind of bouncing between each. Keep that going, and now take both hands and move your fingertips gently on the couch. Have you noticed attention bouncing from all of these objects? Recognize how some of these sensations kind of take a back seat to others, momentarily, before being up preferenced. As you keep doing all of this, let's add the sensation of the back against the couch. And as all of this is occurring, in some way, notice attention in each moment. And notice when the object in the visual field is laser focused and when one of the other objects is up preferenced. Notice how the hands can be up preferenced in some moments as attention briefly lands there. Notice how the toes can be up preferenced in some moments as attention briefly lands there. And recognize when there is the return of attention to the focused area of the visual field. A momentary clarification before attention moves back to something else. Notice if there is a sense where you kind of wake up as attention has been stuck in thought. Notice if there's a memory of any of these objects being preferenced less than the others. Observe when attention lands on a sound in the room, momentarily up preferencing that over any of these objects that were randomly chosen for this exercise. For me, as attention bounces around these sensations, as it returns to the focused area of the visual field, there is a subtle additional level of clarity, focus, emphasis, preference to that aspect of the conscious landscape. Everything else momentarily takes a back seat in experience. See if you can notice that too. And when attention is moving around to the other objects, away from the visual field, that there's a resulting mild sense of the focused area of the visual field, in some way best described by me as slightly spaced out. It's definitely not as laser focused as I know it can be. Some might describe this as distracted from. Let's begin wrapping this up. If you had a salient recognition of the phenomenon of attention during this exercise, knowing as it was up-preferencing different objects in each subsequent moment, take that clarity into your daily experience. Notice as certain information becomes up-preferenced in different moments of the day, and notice when it gets stuck in thought, and then recognize how much different it feels when you wake back up. Kudos if at any time during this exercise there was even a brief moment when, number one, the conscious landscape was recognized. Number two, attention was recognized as bouncing between the objects, even other objects that arose for attention to briefly land on. And number three, possibly the relaxation of the addition of a subject over here, an additional observer to this very real landscape and the very real preferencing of information in each moment. Continue exploring this and see if there's anything interesting to find.